Hello, and welcome to Mental Health Mondays. My name is Jenna Kelland. I'm a holistic nutrition coach, burnout survivor, and mom of three kids with special needs. And I'm always excited to join you on Mondays. We're pre recorded and then shown on Mondays, like today we're pre recording, to share with you some great ways to support your mental wellness. And well, my background is in holistic nutrition, and I love to talk about how food affects your mood and energy and motivation and mental health. I also like to bring in guests who have experience in other areas. And so today we have Lana Walsh with us, and Lana is a sleep coach who helps people overcome sleeplessness. So, welcome, Lana. Can you start by telling us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. Thanks, Jenna, for having me on the show. I'm very excited to be here. So, as you said, I'm a sleep coach, and I help people overcome sleeplessness so that they can regain their energy, their productivity, and just feel great every day. And I do that with coaching. Obviously, I do group coaching and one-on-one coaching, and I just really like to educate people on how the brain and the body work, and so that they can use that information to help them get better sleep.
All right, so I like to do similar things with food. But
Mhm.
tell me a little bit, what's maybe something you don't know about sleep? What are one of these misconceptions or myths we have about sleep that's maybe getting in the way of us getting the best sleep we can or understanding our body and how it works?
Yeah. Well, first of all, the biggest challenge to our sleep is actually our stress and anxiety. It's actually the number one reason why people have bad sleep. And it's even shown that good sleepers on a stressful day will have a bad night's sleep. So if you have high stress or anxiety, the best thing you can do is just do something to reduce your stress that day. And that leads to one of our biggest myths, which is that we believe we need to have a minimum of 8 hours of sleep every night. And when we don't, we get an accumulated sleep debt. And this leads to a lot of stress and anxiety for people when they're not sleeping 8 hours. They start to get anxious that they're not getting enough sleep. And we really don't need 8 hours of sleep. We actually need about 6 to 8 hours of sleep. So that's, if you can just convince yourself that 6 hours of sleep is enough, it will reduce your stress significantly every day.
All right, and so I'm guessing if you reduce your stress, then you sleep better, right? So worrying about not
Yes,
sleeping makes you sleep less. Is that kind of what happens?
exactly. That's exactly what happens. So many people, when I coach on the number of hours that you need for your health, for weight gain, for productivity, when you learn the truth of how much sleep you actually need for those things, you start to reduce your stress when you wake up in the middle of the night or you're having trouble going to sleep, is when we start to stress about not getting enough sleep. You start thinking about, oh, the alarm clock's going to go off and I'm not going to have enough sleep. But when you know the truth of only needing a minimum of 6 hours of sleep, then you start to stress less about it, and it'll help you go back to sleep or go to sleep.
All right, well,
So,
that's interesting because, yeah, that
mhm.
was news to me for sure that the whole part of this, that a lot of it is mental, and it shouldn't surprise me. I've just been reading about, and I talk about how the food we eat, you know, and what we think about the food we eat also affects how well we digest and absorb it. So it makes sense that how we think about sleep is also going to affect our sleep and how well we sleep. But
Mhm.
yeah, it's good to hear from someone who's got some experience. Do you have a story or something to share about how you got into sleep coaching, or how this
Oh,
has made a difference in your life?
it's made a huge difference in my life, Jenna. I am a 30-year insomniac, and I thought I had tried everything. I struggled since I was 15 years old. I actually have a diagnosed sleep disorder called restless leg syndrome, and that started at 15. And that was the beginning of my insomnia. And I just struggled my entire life. I couldn't get to school or work on time. I was nodding off in the afternoon during class or meetings. I called in sick more often than a normal person because I was just too exhausted to get out of bed. And like I said, I tried everything. I did all the sleep hygiene hacks. I was on sleep medications. I tried to make my bedroom the perfect place for sleep, and nothing worked, or not for a long time. So I was researching, actually, no, I was attending an event, and I learned a simple technique for stress reduction called tapping. And once I started using that after a few weeks, I started sleeping better. And that led me on a path to doing some real research in sleep. And I found a scientifically based, clinically proven program that was developed at Harvard University called Cognitive Behavioral Therapy for Insomnia. And I became a coach in that program because it helped me become a good sleeper. And the outcome for me is I have an extra 2 to 3 hours in my day, because I used to be in bed 9 to 10 hours. Now I'm in bed 7 to 8 hours. So that's 2 to 3 hours difference for me to be productive, to do things, to be active. And it's rested hours. It's not tired hours. Like my days used to be, they were shorter, plus they weren't feeling rested. So it's made a huge difference in my life, learning how to reduce my stress, especially, and then learning the proper techniques to become a good sleeper again.
All right. And so, since we're talking here about Mental Health Mondays, I love to always make the connection between whatever our topic is in mental health. And for people who want to check out my blog at sparkwellness.ca, I've written about sleep and mental health and actually how it all affects your gut bacteria, which is all cool stuff to me. But the important connection is that there's a lot of research that shows people who have depression or anxiety are more likely to have sleep problems as well. And we're not sure. It's hard to sometimes to tell if it's poor sleep contributes to poor mental health or poor mental health contributes to poor sleep. But anyway, it creates a cycle where up to 90% of people with depression and 50% of people with anxiety also have sleep issues. So what can you tell us about, how good sleep supports your mental health and mental wellness, or maybe about how poor sleep can have a negative effect?
Yeah, well, poor sleep obviously has a negative effect on our moods. Um, what I coach in my program, then only needing 6 to 8 hours of sleep, because it doesn't affect your function of your ability to function or be productive or your health negatively. But poor sleep really affects our mood. We really, if and it really depends on what we're doing too. If you ever notice when you're on vacation, you only get 5 hours of sleep, you're up and going to the next excursion. You're not worried about your sleep. Like it doesn't affect you that way in your mood. But when you're getting up to go to work, or you have something that you have to do that day and you've had 5 hours of sleep, you're much more likely to be in a bad mood. So your lack of sleep, really, it's a mind game. It comes down to how your mindset is about your sleep. And that's really what affects our moods. It's not the lack of sleep itself. And stress and anxiety plays a big factor in how much sleep we get, because when we're stressed out, our brains are moving at really fast pace, and it can't get into that slow brainwave pattern it needs to in order to get into deep sleep, because it's just too active. And just on a side note, when you're in dream sleep, your brain is actually in an active pace like it's awake. So when your brain is already active because of stress, and then also in dream sleep, it's active because that's what dream sleep is, your brain is just overactive throughout your entire sleep. And it's hard to get enough rest.
And I think one of the connections is that when you're feeling tired, your body kicks into that adrenaline to keep you motivated and moving. And that contributes as well to those feelings of anxiety and makes it more difficult to slow down. We talk about fight or flight, and the opposite
Yeah.
being rest and digest. So
Right.
that rest digest is important to you from the sleep perspective, but for me as well from that gut health, nutrition, how we use the food we absorb. So really,
Mhm.
it's important to get out of that fight or flight, anxious, overwhelmed, racing mind state so that we can really rest well.
Right. Yeah, that cortisol level has been shown to continue to carry on when we're in stress, when we're under a lot of stress, and especially chronic stress. So people that are stressed and anxious every day, studies show that that cortisol level continues to excrete throughout the night. That stress hormone continues to go on through the night. So that keeps your blood pressure higher, your heart rate higher, all these other functions that are meant to prepare you for flight or fight. So if you're not doing that because you're trying to rest, well, where's that energy going? It's
Mm-hmm.
just keeping you awake.
And it's interesting to think that that goes on through the night, and we think about sleep being relaxing and rejuvenating and such, but our bodies are actually still going at high speed, so and
Mm-hmm.
working overtime. So Really interesting stuff. So,
Hmm.
Lana, if people want to learn more about this, or if you've got some strategies or tips or tools to share, what can you share with people today to make some changes to their sleep?
Yeah, so I've got an ebook. It's called 15 Strategies for Getting Better Sleep, and it includes 5 strategies that anybody can use, 5 strategies that anybody who has trouble going to sleep at night would use, and 5 strategies for people who have trouble staying asleep or going back to sleep after waking in the night. And they're not your typical um, sleep hygiene hacks that you normally would read. These are based on research. So I highly recommend you download it and take a look at them and try a few of them out and see what works for you.
Right. Well, I like the idea that there's like stuff for everybody, but then if you've got a specific problem, there's some specific strategies. Because so often we get generic information that doesn't necessarily match our specific needs. So I think that's great that you've kind of provided all of those. And I will put the link to that in the information about this episode of the show so people can download that ebook and have a look at it. And Lana, if you
Yeah,
want to also send me your Facebook or website or whatever else where you want people to follow up with you who want to continue to learn about good sleep, I'll include that as well.
great. Thank you.
All right. So thanks, Lana, for being here. This has been interesting. I've learned some things about sleep, which I'm gonna download your ebook and find out more. I don't find sleep a regular problem, but certainly I know when my anxiety level's higher or there's more things going on. When my mind is in that that brain rushing state all the time, it's harder to get to sleep. So I
Mhm.
think it'll be a good resource to have for those times when I do find sleep more challenging. So I encourage people to join us again next week for Mental Health Mondays. We meet every Monday at 10 o'clock. There'll be a new episode coming out where I share, practical strategies for mental wellness and looking not just at nutrition, which is my area, but as I said, I'm bringing in some experts from other areas to share all the things we can do to support our mental wellness in all areas of our lives. So thanks for joining us, Lana, and we look forward to um, trying out some of these things about sleep. And I hope everybody will join us again next
Mhm.
week. Take care and be well.